for a while. And as I've been watching you on Instagram, I've been really impressed with your message. And I've just been impressed with how conscious you are, how awake you are, what you bring to people, the love, the compassion, all of it. Like what you bring is absolutely incredible. And so I wanted to have you on here because I was like, I need to highlight this wonderful human who is bringing her light, and you're bringing it authentically, and you're bringing it confidently, and you're bringing it in a way that all of us can like assimilate it easily. That's the one thing I've noticed with you is you bring this intense, deep things, but then we can digest it easily. And so Shannin, it's a real pleasure to have you here today. And so tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
I will. First, I wanted to say thank you so much for those kind words, Ellen. You have no idea how much that means to me. After everything that I've been through and the person that I grew up being, I never ever anticipated that I would be somebody who would receive an invitation like the one you just gave me and an introduction like the one you just gave me. So thank you for the opportunity. And wow, so specifically, you want to know how my journey started, or where do we start?
Well, I know that you're a business owner, and but I know that wasn't what you always were. And so there's
Yep.
always a backstory to these things, always how
Mhm.
people become what they become and how they've gotten to where they've gotten. So I want you just to share your backstory of how you become Shanninwithaneye.
Wow. Okay. So, in terms of a backstory, for those who don't know and don't recognize my accent, one of the questions I get asked the most is, "Where are you from?" I'm from South Africa, and that's a big part of my story and of my identity. It's just very special to me. I love this continent. I love this country, and so about my story and how I got into doing what I do now, it kind of ties in with my awakening journey, I guess you could say. So to the relevant parts for this conversation, I would say, is my husband and I were working managing lodges and hotels all throughout South Africa for over a decade. And we loved that job. That was something that we had so much fun doing that. We learned so many different things. It humbled us tremendously. We learned a lot of leadership skills, and it really strengthened our bond as well. And when the lockdowns happened, of course, that ended our career in hospitality. So for me, what that looked like was being without a job for months on end. Um, and it was that time alone at home when my hubby had got a permit to go back to work since he was in more of like the farm management aspect, which was seen as essential at that stage. He went back to work, he got a permit to go back to work. And during that time, I was thrust into my spiritual awakening journey. And the reason for that is because it was the first time that I'd ever had to stand up to authority. So my employer at that time was asking me to do things that were out of alignment, out of integrity. Things to do with my team, requesting certain things of them that were illegal in South Africa at that stage, and various other things. And as a result of that, I mean, I had always grown up being somebody that struggled with low self-worth. And that's why I opened with what I opened with in response to the beautiful introduction you gave me, because that hasn't always been the case. I struggled with low self-worth. I was a people pleaser. And so for me, the thought of saying to my employer, actually, no, I'm not going to do what you've asked me to do was unthinkable.
Oh, wow.
Unthinkable. I was petrified,
Mm.
absolutely petrified of what was going to be the consequences for having pushed back. And how was I going to find a job, especially given the industry that I was in, if this was to be the result? So I chatted with my hubby about it, and I got some representation, like labor wise. And together as a team, we just decided actually, we've got all the evidence, we've got all the things that we need. And it was up to me to sort of like push the button and to take a stand and to stand up against authority and to say, no, I'm not going to do these things because you're endangering me, you're endangering all my team, you're endangering everything. It's just totally unacceptable what you've asked me to do. So I did that. And the expected happened when I pushed back. They tried to fire me. Long story short, it was like a case of constructive dismissal that I won. It was all sorted in my favor. And I realized in the time after that how I had been getting satisfaction, validation, all
Mm.
of the things that I should have been receiving from the inside, I'd been deriving that from the outside my whole life,
Gosh,
in
yeah.
every aspect of my career, in every aspect of my relationships, not my husband, but previous relationships that I had been in were the same story. Every aspect of my life was centered around this seeking validation from the outside. So what I started doing was reaching out to people, since I had some experience doing social media, and I had been doing sort of like making makeup tutorials and doing flat lays and things like that as a hobby in my spare time when I was out in the bush doing nothing else. And so I started contacting companies to ask them if they would need social media services in that industry. I started looking at being a virtual assistant, and I started to gain work as a result of the fact that I had this little side hustle, which started as Shanninwithaneye. And eventually, over time, I realized that the whole makeup thing was just not the reason that I had picked up these skills. It
Yes.
was not suited to my personality. There were no prospects for me there. And I guess I knew that to an extent, but I just love the creative outlet of it, you know? And that little bit of like self-care that you sit and do for yourself in the morning, give yourself those few minutes. I love that side of it. So that's why I went on with it. But in the meantime, I had grown really amazing relationships with some mentors online that I was doing virtual assistant work for. So I started out doing appointment setting and virtual assistant work, social media management work, general marketing kind of stuff for other coaches on social media. And they would mentor me. They would give me access to all of their courses and stuff like that. We developed very close relationships with various of these clients. And I started realizing, even before this, but over time, it became impossible for me to ignore that everything was being planted on my path at exactly the right time, in exactly the right way, not too fast, not too slow. Just I was being guided. And I knew that, but
Yes.
I just didn't know what to do with that information. So then when when I would ask my mentors, like, what should I do with these skills that I'm gaining in marketing and in social media and all of that, they were guiding me towards becoming a coach of some kind. And I've always been good at that kind of thing. Even with my team, as I said, I worked in hospitality for a long time. I've been good with leading people and with helping people. And so I started thinking, what could I coach people on? And the first iteration of my coaching business was actually around people pleasing. And we started with that whole piece of self-worth. And I loved doing that. I absolutely loved doing that. And what then started happening is, again, with the synchronicities and the signs, people would ask me at the end of our time working together on people pleasing, right, now I'm ready to start my business. Can you help me? Because I know that, you know, you put yourself out there on social media. Could you help me with my business? And I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll give you some tips, you know, I'll give you some pointers here and there. And I did that, you know, until this became a pattern that I couldn't ignore anymore. And I realized that the way that I was being guided was towards helping people who feel this compulsion to do something good with the experiences that have happened in their life, to help other people with that. And my role, as I now understand it, is to empower those people, to help them to heal their not enoughness, and to help them to gain the confidence and the clarity and piece their life together in such a way as to bring that to other people and help them through it. Because when we help other people to heal from whatever they've been through, we are continuing to heal ourselves. And it's this ripple effect that I am in this business for. I want this ripple effect to grow and the consciousness of everybody on this planet to expand through access to coaching and personal development and different healing modalities, and just awakening to the way that our lives are actually intended to be, as opposed to just what we've been told, which is only, I think, 1% of the story. So I hope that answers your question. It was kind of a long roundabout answer.
No, it does. I want to go back to just some things you were talking about, you know, just overcoming your own people pleasing and overcoming those type of things. So what did the healing journey look like for you to overcome those things? Yes, it can be we are putting ourselves out here, and that can be all part of that journey. But there's also different things that we do, maybe on a regular basis, or maybe we went somewhere to receive help. What did you do to overcome some of the stumbling blocks in your life? What did it look like?
Well, it was definitely a case of searching for various different things. If I look back at the screenshots that I've taken over the past several years, this generally tells the story, because it's like, could this be the thing? Is this the thing? Should I try this? So it's various different things. I would say the University of YouTube helped me a lot initially. I had no idea what to do, what to expect, what was happening to me, because it was like a period of almost like depression. So much so that I went to see a doctor. I mean, I've always been a vibrant person, and yes, I've got the soft side and all of those things, but I'm like that lively person. People tell me, well, you're so, I don't know, cheerful, and you light up the room, and you're fun to be around. And I just lost that. My spark was gone, and it was devastating to me. It was like my whole identity had just disappeared overnight. It was really scary. And it was scary for my family and for my husband as well. So I went to see a doctor, and he prescribed some like antidepressant kind of medications. And normally, um, like, I understand those kinds of medications are necessary for some people, but I didn't want to do that. But I just didn't feel like I had a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the worst decisions I could have made, because it dumbed me down. It numbed me out. The way my husband describes that period is just that I was like a zombie. I lay on the couch and just stared out into space at the TV screen, and I couldn't tell you what I was watching or any of that. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't people who benefit from those medications, but it numbed me out to what was actually happening. And I'll tell you a little story here, and why I stopped taking them as soon as I did. Because I was laying in bed the one night. It wasn't bedtime. I was just zombified, and I lay there, and I was kind of zoning in and out. And I actually haven't told this story to that many people, but I felt as clear as day. There's no one who can make me believe this didn't happen. I felt it as clear as day, a wet kiss on my cheek as I was laying on my side.
Mm.
And in that moment, I felt this flood in my body, like I was loved, like I was cared about, like I was going to be okay. Like, I can't describe it. It wasn't just the kiss, it was the feeling that was in my body at that time. And so eventually I stopped taking medications, and I started looking for, what am I going to do? So I contacted people in my family who are healers of various kinds, and asked them for advice. I started doing all different types of journaling that I found on YouTube. I started doing things like meditation and looking into energy work and energy medicine that you can do on yourself. I started just basically trying to work on changing my mindset, because I realized relatively early on that it was the self-worth piece that I needed to work on the most.
Mm.
And it was also a huge thing, the personal responsibility, because in that moment, I was in the victim mode. Everything is happening to me. Why is this happening to me? What about the things in my upbringing? Why did those things have to happen to me to cause me to have low self-worth to begin with? And I was placing the blame outwards. And when I started taking personal responsibility for things, and I started realizing the impact that that was having on my life, and making small changes, tiny changes to the way that I would speak, like instead of simple things like, does this make my bum look big when I'm getting ready to go out? Actually, I think I look pretty good in this. I'm going to wear it. It started with tiny changes that were mindset shifts. And when I started pairing that with the more, shall we say, esoteric or alternative, as it's called, healing modalities, with digging into things like spirituality and meditation and breathing exercises and all that kind of thing, just to calm my body down and become receptive to these messages that I could feel that I was receiving. That was when everything started to change.
Yes, yes. Oh, I love what you're sharing, because you're sharing blow by blow ways of dealing with situations in your life. And I went through like this burnout stage, and they put me on antidepressants as well, and I was on them But the same thing, I can say that I was on them for a time and then I just knew I needed to come off them. And I know that that's not the case for everybody. For some people, it's, but for me, it did exactly what you said. It kind of put me into different states and places for me that kept me in this negative loop. I would find I would always be in a negative loop. But once I started to come off of them, once I started to step into areas like you're talking about with meditation and going in and doing these things, it is literally a mindset shift. It literally changes you. You move from one state to another state, and you just keep moving through the states of development. And it's like incredible. It's like really powerful. And so I would have to imagine with you that though there was healing taking place and these things, this was awesome. This is, how were people with all of this around you? How did people handle the transformations and the changes and the shifts? Because you obviously had a trajectory you were on, and all of a sudden it shifted and has gone the other way. How did people look at that with you?
I can say it's been a mixed journey. There is this, I would say, a preconception in our kind of community of people who think that this journey is, it's love and light. That's not the case. It's hard AF because there are a lot of people who are, the way that I perceive this situation is actually energetically in terms of vibration. So when we're talking about personal development and growing and changing and healing, you're shedding those layers of yourself in a way that are keeping you down in a low vibration. Those negative thoughts, those negative feelings, the victimhood, the fear, the anger, all of those heavy feelings that I had been holding onto kept me in a low vibration. And as I started to change my vibration, as cheesy as that has been made to sound now, as I started to raise my vibration, I was now finding myself in a totally different frequency to people that were in my life. And that was really hard. So things that I had previously enjoyed doing with certain people, I just suddenly, it felt like it was overnight, even though it was over a course of probably a few years. But suddenly I was no longer interested in doing those things. And so the connection that I had with that person kind of dissolved because the thing we used to go and do together is no longer something I enjoy doing.
Yes.
A lot of instances where friends kind of think that this is a bit strange, or that maybe I've grasped at something. Like, oh, you were going through a low period, and so of course you clung to spirituality. Of course you think you think you're better than people now, and that's definitely not the case. But yeah, it's been challenging. There's been instances with, family and friends who maybe they haven't said it to me outright, but the impression that I've got from just being an observer is that they felt sorry for me, like, oh, shame, yeah, she's going through a rough time, or yeah, she'll snap out of it soon enough, or this is a phase, those kind of things. It was difficult. But what I'm actually really grateful for that experience, because what it helped me to see was who were those people who would celebrate me when I was winning, and when they could see that I was working to improve myself. For example, a simple thing like boundaries, or being able to say no to somebody when they invited me to something I didn't actually want to do, was previously inconceivable to me. And so those people who benefited from me having had no boundaries are people who were maybe not so happy with me now having newfound boundaries, and finding my voice and being able to say I don't want to. A simple thing like that was really unthinkable to me before. So it sort of separated the acquaintances from the real deep friends. And I'll admit that that's been a somewhat lonely journey. And that's why I was saying, I think even before we hopped on live, just how amazing it is to connect with people from all around the world with the technology that we have. Because it was only when I found the others, so to speak, who understood exactly what I was going through and who could totally relate to every aspect of what I was saying and use the same kind of language to explain the way they were feeling, that I was like, I'm not alone.
Yeah, right, right. Right. I know, because the world, it can feel like you're lonely, especially on a journey of development like this, because a lot of it is inner. There is an inner shadow work. There's an inner digging deep. There is something that not everybody sees. They may see these occasional blips of you on the outside, but What's going on the inside is like a daily, hour by hourly, minute by minute, millisecond by millisecond transformation that's happening. And it is definitely, it's a deep work. And I love what you had to say, that not everything is love and light. And I just kind of want to highlight this for a second, because I'm in, we're in these spiritual communities and different things, and there's a lot of emphasis on love and light. And I'm not against love and light, because we need love and light, because our planet is going through its changes, and that's for sure. But when does that begin to tip? When it becomes just like such a love and light message that you almost feel like you're bypassing. Because see, you didn't bypass. You're not saying I bypassed anything, but I've seen a lot of love and light where it's bypassing. So can we talk about this for a minute?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's do that, because I think, I could easily have fallen victim to that. And I could have said, oh well, I'm an ex people pleaser and I don't suffer with any of those things anymore. And now I've just transcended all of that and I'm just a love and light person. And I could have masked the fact that I was still doing people pleasing by just pretending that I'm just this beautiful, wonderful beacon
Absolutely.
of light and hope and love. I am a human being, just like each of us. We each have dark and light. We each have, shadow. We each have an ego. We each have things that trip us up. It's not about, in my opinion, it's not about. I mean, obviously, we all want to be the best that we can be, but it's
Right.
about the way you approach the times that you have stumbled, the times that you have maybe done something that, in hindsight, you're like, Shh, I shouldn't have done that,
Yeah.
or I shouldn't have said that, or I could have handled this better. It's about the way you approach that, to me, that actually reflects the true state of your vibration. Because if you're just somebody who's telling other people to do all of these things and you're projecting that you're this perfect love and light person, and you don't allow, I mean, our body is an instrument of something so profound. And if
Yes.
we feel a feeling of anger, there's a reason we feel a feeling of anger. If we feel afraid, there's a reason we feel afraid. We shouldn't need to feel like all of those emotions should be suppressed in order to be accepted in this community. If you feel angry, it's a signal. There's something you need to do with that anger. Now,
Mhm.
for me, what I have found useful, for example, on my page, is I've had a lot of instances where I've had quite good reason to be angry. And instead of jumping on, like, there's this urge that comes on, especially because I want to share things authentically on my page. But I'm always so intentional about I know this might sound strange, but what is the vibration of my Instagram page? What is the vibration of my business? Am I willing to jump onto my stories and be like, this effing person did this and if this and blah 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 blah. And some people, that's your vibe. I love you, go for it. But for me, I don't want that. I first want to find the reason that I felt that anger in my body and then come with the fire and share something that is actually useful, something that can actually help somebody else instead of just venting or just putting the anger out there and spreading it like an oil slick. So whilst I understand that, in our community, let's say people want to improve themselves, we want to be able to handle things with more compassion and all those nice things. It just seems disingenuous to expect any person to be happy and confident and in a high vibration all day, every day. It's not realistic. And in my opinion, it's not the only reason that we are here to experience this life on earth.
Hmm. So why are we afraid of those adverse emotions? Because it feels like there is fear. When you start talking about, I went on this shadow journey and it was really hard and I was angry, like you're saying, and then I cried buckets of tears, and then I was really depressed and I felt, grief, and then, and it can feel like people don't want to address that. They don't want to talk about that. It's like a fear there. Why? Why are we afraid? Because that is part of the human experience. You and I are on an even playing field because we are human. Just basically because we are human, we have emotions, we have likes and dislikes, we have highs and lows. It's part of the human journey. It is why we've incarnated on the earth. So, why are we afraid of that?
I think if you're asking me that from my perspective, like
Yes.
in the online space, I think the easiest answer to that is because people are trying to sell something. And in order to sell something, you You're trying to present yourself to be the best you can possibly be. And a lot of people have this impression, false impression, that when you project this image of everything in my life is perfect and I've transcended all of these things and I'm all of this, now suddenly I'm an expert in such and such spiritual mentorship, or well, I'm the best at business because I'm just this. Like it's almost like people don't realize that when you share something vulnerably about something that you've struggled with, I was angry when this person did this to me. This is how I worked through it. Actually, what you're doing in that moment is getting off your effing high horse, number one,
Yes.
and meeting your potential clients where they are. I
Yeah.
know that's such an overused statement to say meet people where they're at. But in this instance, I really mean that. Like, if you can say to somebody that it's normal for people to rip your work off online, it's normal for people to go and poach your clients, unfortunately. Like, there's so many different things that go on in a business sense and in the online world. And when you can normalize those things and you can say, these are the things that have happened to me, this is how I felt about it, and this is what I'm doing about it. In other words, you turn it, like I said before, you feel those things, you find the golden nugget and you present that nugget. To me, that's authenticity. It's not to say that you need to be like all down in the dumps and share your whole life story, and some things are not for social media. I understand that, but I think in terms of the online marketing world, the reason that people pretend all of those things and don't talk about the difficult parts is because there is this like unwritten rule almost that pretentiousness is what sells. And if you can pretend to be this person long enough, people will believe you, people will have certain perceptions about you, you'll be seen as more successful, especially in our community, like you're seen as more I don't know, maybe spiritually evolved or whatever. If you've transcended feeling anger, or you never say anything, oh man, yeah, I get what you're saying, but that's my honest opinion about why I think people do that in this space.
I appreciate you just being honest here. Honestly, I know I've kind of pulled you out into this live in a moment like this to just hit some honest things, but we are in the online space, and the online space, I can be honest, is not my favorite space. It's not the thing that I like always thrive in. I'm a much quieter person. I prefer a quiet, simple little life sometimes. And what you see on social media, and this is what I like about your business. This is why I like having you on here right now, is the piece of authenticity. And I just feel like I see a lot of not authentic Instagram pages. I mean, for whatever reason, whatever they may be doing that for is with them. So how do you, being in the online space as much as you are, stay balanced? Because wow, I the online space for me feels like one gigantic roller coaster, and if you're not careful, you can get in the wrong car and go down and loopy and all over the place. So how do you stay balanced, Shannin? Because I feel like that's a really important piece to talk about.
Well, I just want to backtrack a little bit and say that I don't want to give people the impression that I've never been that person. Like you said, it's easy to fall into that trap. I've been that person.
Me too.
When I used to do yeah, when I used to do the makeup tutorials and that kind of thing, I remember a specific reel where it was like dirty words that were used in the music, and it was a trending audio, and I filmed a makeup tutorial with this amazing transition. And looking back at that reel, and the music that was used with it, and like the facial expressions that I use, I'm ashamed. There's shame that comes from that. And to me, that's really the thing. If you can share something that you are, maybe it's vulnerable and it feels a little bit scary, it's a different feeling to shame. Would I show this reel to my mom and be proud? Would I show this carousel that I've written, this thing that I've said? Can I be proud of that? Am I proud of that? I feel like coming back to that place every time. Like, does this represent, like I said before, is this the vibration of my page? Is this the vibration of my business? And I really think that I understand that certain things are not for social media. I really do. There's like for example, my husband, he's not a social media person. He doesn't want to be on my page. He doesn't want any of those things. I talk about him and I mention him, and now and again you'll see like a flitting image of him in the background of something, but that's just not his thing. And I respect that. But to stay balanced and grounded is a case of, I think also to an extent, there's got to be that connection content where you're using it almost, even if you don't share everything from your journal, you use your content creation process almost like an outlet, almost like a journaling practice. And when you can extract something from that, which whatever comes out when you're in that state, that's useful to other people and that helps them to understand that what they're going through is normal and that you could help them with that. That's part of that feeling, I would say. And the other thing is just to live your normal life outside of that. I mean, I'm not a millionaire or anything like that, but still the things that I'm working towards don't put me in such a position as to want something completely different to what I have now. And so just constantly checking back in with why I'm actually doing this. What is it actually that I'm doing? What is the reason that I put this much time and effort and energy into building what I'm building? And when I have that, what am I going to do with that? And keeping on, staying very focused on that is very important because, like you said, there's lots of these sort of there's lots of content out there where it's like the lavish photo shoots and the expensive holidays and how I made six figures in the first 3 months of my business and all this kind of thing. And it's easy to get sucked in where actually the goals that you're working towards are not even your goals anymore. You're like shooting towards the six-figure business, but you don't even need that for what your dream life is. Like, why are you doing that? And it's because of the outside influence. So I think it's a case also of knowing yourself well enough. I mean, I've got a practice that I do every day, every week, and every month, almost religiously, pretty much. And that is like a reflection kind of thing where I'm checking in with all of these things. And that helps me to stay on course and not allow as much of the noise out there to throw me off course.
Yes.
And to just keep in tune with the reason I started this, what I'm actually trying to build, and having the self-awareness to be able to admit to myself and to my audience when I've done something that's pulled me off track, because
Sure.
that creates more authority and trust than any piece of content ever could.
Because it makes you normal. It makes you relatable. Yeah, because we all feel that. I mean, I can struggle sometimes sitting on social media and comparing. Comparison is a trap. And sometimes that will come up and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this person over here has this, or this person, how in the world did they manage doing that video? Or how did they, or I know that they have a team. That's why they're doing, I'm trying to do this thing by myself. And I actually have to just stop all that. And literally sometimes it's a minute by minute choice, Shannin, where I'm like, I will not look at this person's page. I cannot look at this person's page, and I just because I'm human like everyone else. I'm human where you look and you say, oh wow, and so I think I love what you're saying about checking in with yourself, because I feel like the minute I go to Instagram or to whatever platform on social media, that's the first thing I have to do is I have to check in with myself. Well, how are you feeling as you're sitting there looking at Shanninwithaneye's page? How are you feeling when, I'm looking at somebody else's page? How are you feeling right now, Ellen? What's feeling? And I've learned now that if I'm in anxiety, if I have any shred of anxiety, get the hell off social media. If I have any sort of pressure, and I can feel it, it'll come from the feet and it'll go up to here and it just sits there and it like knocks on you, knocks on. If I'm feeling that, I have to get off. I just have to. And it's almost kind of like my body is starting to kind of tell me when to go on, when not to go on, when's a good time to do this, for your own self, not algorithm shit, just for your own sanity, Ellen. When is a good time for you to be doing these things? And it's just such a wise word that you said, to check in with yourself, because I don't think we do that enough. I think we scroll and scroll and scroll, and we're checking in with everyone else, not with, number one right here. So you say the word a lot about that you're building something. So what does that mean? What does that mean when you say I'm building a business, or I'm building my life, or what's that mean, Shannin?
I think the process of building is constant. I don't think I'll ever be done building. I hope I'm never done building, first of all, because I think it's supposed to be that way. Just when we think we've reached this pinnacle, the way that the way that I've experienced it so far is the universe comes in and says, "Oh, you think so, right? No, no, no. Here is actually the next level."
Yeah.
And so I think the process of building will be constant, continuous, and I'm happy with that. I'm at peace with that already. But building, I think, is just a case of being intentional about what you're doing with your life every single day. For me, that's what I'm trying to build is just a sustainable, beautiful community. When I say sustainable, I mean I want to be able to have real relationships with everyone who comes into my page. That to me is sustainable. I'd rather have, let's say, 8,000 followers, where the majority of those people are messaging me constantly and asking me about my dog. And I'm replying to their message and saying, "How did it go with that client that you told me about last week?" Like, I want to have a community of people that deeply connect to me and vice versa. I'd rather be like super niche and have just the people that love me and that I love and that I really want to share my energy with, because that's the thing people don't take into account when you're running a business. Um, Actually, one of the main aspects of freedom about that is choosing who has access to your energy. Because when I was employed in hospitality, for example, I was leaking my energy to every single guest and every single member of the team that I came into contact with. That was my job. Whereas now I can keep that in and I can share it only with the people that I want to share that with. And so what building that is for me is just improving or increasing exponentially the way that I'm able to help people. So, with various different things that people need help with along this journey, creating as many resources as I can, free resources, very affordable resources, the deeper resources where people need me one-on-one, or they need a group of, a community of people that are like-minded, and just trying to build various different ways to help those type of people that I've shared about earlier to step into their role as a leader, because all of us so many people seem to be searching for that leader, especially now in the world outside. Oh, when this person becomes president, then everything will be fine.
Oh,
When
God,
we have
America.
this happening here, yeah, when we have this here and this here and this here, all these external things, then everything will be fine. But actually, it starts with you. So it's finding that thing that they feel called to do, the reason that they've gone through everything that they've gone through in their life, make sense of it, and build a business that's helping other people through that. To me, that's like the more people I can help to do that, I'll be in my purpose of building and growing this business with that as my number one goal, to help humanity to heal, to evolve our consciousness, and as cheesy as it sounds, to help raise the vibration of as many people in the world who I know for a fact are going through exponentially this awakening journey that we've been speaking about earlier.
Yes, yes. So let's look at this awakening journey that you're speaking about, earlier. The planet is raising its vibration. I mean, Mother Earth right now is ramping things up, and we're all feeling it. Every one of us is feeling it. How do you not resist the movement of Mother Earth as she's helping us grow, helping us transform? How do you not resist?
I think a huge part of it is thinking that you have the answer and that you know the answer and that your answer is the only answer.
Well, I have,
Because as soon as you start closing yourself,
I'm only
what's
joking,
that?
but I have the answer, as you know.
Oh my gosh. If you did, I'd be like, oh my word.
Yeah,
If you
when
give
I
me the
get it,
answer
I'll
right
let
now,
you
I wish
know.
I could take it. Please let me know.
Okay, sure.
Oh my word. Let's hope that the answer is given to somebody who's going to use it the right way, because there's so many interpretations of this, Ellen. There's so many ways to answer this. But for me, I think it's just being open to not having the answer.
Yeah.
Because what seems to me to be one of the biggest problems is the divide is being caused by us being broken down into these teeny tiny little groups and fighting among one another. Whereas if we just realize that none of us actually have the answer. We're all in search of this answer. And instead of fighting against one another, saying, well, this is actually what's going to happen, and this is actually what's going to happen, and this person is right, and these people are wrong. When you really break it down, most of us actually just want the same things, maybe for different reasons. And if we can find that common ground and be open to being wrong, being open to listen to one another in a different way, that's how, in my opinion, we can change things a lot, because there's all of this. I mean, the media plays a huge part in keeping us in this state of constant fighting, and conversations between people with opposing views, and all of that is such a rarity in this society. When there are conversations between people with opposing views, instead of there being a conversation about what we have in common, it's blaming, it's shaming, it's pointing fingers, it's name calling, and it's making the problem worse. Yeah. So to me, the easiest answer to your question is just being open to being wrong.
Oh no, did you just say being open to being wrong? Oh no. Oh no, I'm in complete agreement with you. I know for me in my journey, being comfortable with uncertainty was challenging. Being comfortable with the fact, and it doesn't mean that like it's all okay. It doesn't mean like I walk through life like, oh yeah, I'm just living in the land of uncertainty and it's all, sweet love and roses and unicorns and rainbows. No, it's not that. Not that remotely, but it is understanding that things can change and shift. That's the neat thing with what's happening with, like, the timeline jumpings and the quantum and the different things, the quantum field, all of those things, is things can shift in a matter of moments. We can create different realities every second of the day, As we take stock, as we've been talking about, being conscious with ourselves, as we're listening to our minds, as we're in our bodies, embodying our bodies, being present in this flesh here, as we're in that and we listen to it and we shift our mind accordingly, we bounce back into different realities all the time. We're bouncing and jumping all the time. So for me, because I was raised in such religion, it was all about certainty and a fixed place. And there was this fixed end game that you were going to. And now what I've been learning, and it's, been a process of a lot of getting rid of stuff to learn well, is that it can shift at any moment, Ellen, and that's not necessarily bad. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. If the road goes to the right when you thought it was going to go to the left, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That actually it's really about too, I think for me, is feeling what's happening as things are shifting, feeling into what's happening as if I want to go left and it's pulling me right. What am I feeling on the inside with that? And sit with that and be present in that. And then there's a flow that can come from that. And then there's that ease that can come from it. It doesn't mean things are easy. It just means really listening to what's all around you, because everything's speaking. Everything. There's not a single thing that's not speaking to you or to me or, to the planet. The planet is in the greatest upgrade it's ever been in. People's consciousness really is raising. And that is something you talk a lot about. So share a little bit about consciousness and raising, because I know this is something that you really hammer on your page, that people are, expanding.
Yes, I totally do believe that. And I often get stuck with almost like two sides of me. And I like to back the things that I feel up with things that I can measure. And some of the ways that I've been able to do that, because I do this mostly for my own sanity. Like, am I being pulled off course? Like, am I losing my mind? I've asked myself this many times over the past several years, and I keep coming back to the same answer, thankfully. But and I have a very grounded husband who we share a lot of the same opinions, but we have deep conversations, and that's really important. To question one another and, well, if this, then this, and what about this, and if that, then what? Not in an argumentative way, but just in a way that causes you to question things, exercising your critical thinking skills. So in terms of the marketing space, I love to talk about this as it relates to consciousness, because people don't seem to put these two things together. We can all say that, okay, people's consciousness has started to rise exponentially since the lockdowns and all of that, because all of us went through a massive trauma, whether we are admitting it or not. We went through a trauma, and that was the catalyst for a lot of people in the awakening journey, now myself included. Now, how that has translated into what I do now, and the reason why I speak about it a lot, or one of the reasons I speak about it a lot in my content, is because what's happening to consumers, right? People who are in the mode of buying, who are searching for something to buy, is that because of the state of our vibration, we have, I call it the bullshitometer, right? The bullshitometer is becoming more and more finely tuned. So, like I said earlier about these people no longer resonate with me, this music no longer resonates with me, this food, this substance, this whatever it is no longer resonates with me. It's the same exact thing when it comes to marketing tactics. So you might previously, let's say 2 years ago, have been scrolling through Instagram and you come through an advert, and this person's got like, are you desperate to grow your Instagram page, but you're struggling and feeling frustrated and overwhelmed? Now, previously, you may have clicked onto that advert, let's say 2 years ago, and you were like, why, yes, I am. You click onto it and you buy the thing. But
Sure.
now, people's bullshitometers are becoming so much more finely tuned that that advert is so cheesy, so gross, it's repulsive to your energy field. It feels like nails down a chalkboard. And so when somebody else comes on and you see their piece of content that's talking about things in a different way, something like what you resonate with about my page, that just hits in a different way, and it hits a different kind of person. So yes, there are still people who, be it as it may, that's their journey. They are going like great guns for that kind of marketing, and that's their journey. Okay. But I know for a fact, because I'm one of them, that there are other people who are in the position that we're speaking about now, where they can see it clear as day. Yeah. And their mind has expanded to the level of realizing that we are all day, every day, being treated like consumers. Our data is being mined. Our energy, our minds, our souls, every single thing that we are is being mined for money, for business, for power, for fame, for all of these types of things. And if we can just, how to simplify this? My goal is to create a place where I'm offering what I'm doing, and I'm telling you the truth about what it's going to help you with and why my way has worked for me and for my clients. And if that resonates with you, it means it's going to work for you too, because you see things in the same way as me, and you want those same values of honesty and authenticity and integrity. You want those values in your business too. You want to carry those values forward with you, because you understand that that's not what's happening out in the world to a large extent. Celebrities are sure as shit not being honest with you about that latest face cream that they just bought that made them look like a baby's ass. It's not true, right? And there's so many of these kinds of things out there that we are starting to realize. And let's just use a simple example. So let's say there's a food item that we have now become aware oh, well, these ingredients actually over time, they're causing me to have X risk of diabetes or X risk of heart attack, or it contains carcinogens or whatever. And so now I'm no longer going to eat that. So for me, for example, Coke Zero, I was addicted to Coke Zero. And since my journey has started, I've looked into the things that I'm eating and drinking and all of those things, and I'm trying to make better choices. I still live in the matrix. When I go out for lunch with my family, I might order a Coke Zero instead of a glass of wine, and it's my once every 3 months treat or something. It's fine. But when you start to understand these things about the world, you can't help but see it in everything that's around you. You see it in everything. And so if you see it in somebody's marketing content on social media, you pick it up. Yeah. And so choosing just to approach your business with those values at the forefront is what I'm trying to do. And it's what's made me the success that I have achieved so far. That is what has facilitated that, because just taking it back to what I said in the beginning about having worked as a virtual assistant and appointment setter and all of that for other coaches, I received actually a lot of my training in the very masculine sense with this whole consumer and manipulate people and see them as a dollar sign and whatever. I had that as the foundational training. And really how I've gotten to where I am now is deconstructing that. So when you understand how it works, then you can reverse engineer it and use that information in a way that is actually in alignment with you and your goals and your values and those things.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I could talk to you for hours. I love what you're bringing. I love it. Oh my gosh, it's so easy to digest. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we've been kind of dancing around this a little bit, but what is it exactly that you do? Now, what is Shanninwithaneye? What does it look like for all of us?
So Shanninwithaneye is my personal brand. As I shared earlier, I started out doing like stuff to do with makeup and beauty and skincare and all of those things. And over the years, it has progressed to what I do now, which is basically to help people who are in a service-based industry, like coaches and healers and that kind of thing, to create a business with their given knowledge, their given experiences, that purpose that you feel to have, to use that experience for good in the world. My job is to empower you to get that out into the world. So that's through creating an aligned offer that you can confidently share about at a price point that you feel comfortable sharing about. It's about developing the enoughness on the inside that you can confidently talk about that in your content. It's about learning how to create content in a way that is anti-hustle culture. In other words, you don't need to post 5 times a day. You don't need to try to go viral. You need to try hitting harder. It's going deeper in your content as opposed to just trying to go viral, which is what so many people teach. So what I do is I offer everything from free resources that go out every single week by email to short little courses and master classes, as well as resources to help you to use in your actual business, like a digital content planner is one of my most popular offers, all the way up and through to my signature offer, which is a 12-week group coaching experience that takes you through the whole journey of what I've just said. Everything from the not enoughness, becoming open to receive, because generally when there's low self-worth, there's an energetic block to receiving and being provided for by our creator. So everything from that piece to the content creation and the offer, finding your purpose, most people call it your niche, right the way through to practices in your business that help you to everything we spoke about. Stay on course with the big vision. Yes, we want to grow our business. Yes, we want more people to see our content. Yes, we want to help more people. Yes, we are worthy of abundance.
Oh my gosh.
But there are these frameworks that we need to have in our business that support us. I call it the step-up system, because nobody wakes up tomorrow morning and says, I'm going to post 5 times a week on Instagram and all my posts are going to be amazing. That's not how it works. And so I help people through that process to see where can they shine? What is it that they are really amazing at? And we build on that. So let's say your writing is your real strength. We're going to create carousels that rock the world. And from there, we're going to build it slowly to the fact that you can then maybe start feeling comfortable sharing reels where you're in the reel, but you're not speaking in the reel. We just see you in the background. And we start stepping up the visibility, and we start stepping up the ways in which you use the platform. So maybe you can post 3 carousels a week, and then eventually you're doing 3 carousels and 1 live stream. Then you're doing 3 carousels, 1 reel, a live stream, and you're posting twice a week, talking about your offer in your stories. Basically just building and building and building on the foundation that we laid during the 12-week experience. But I go on a total rant.
Not at all. No, I can feel the passion coming through. I love what you said about using your life experiences as a basis for your business, because I feel like sometimes you can feel the pressure to recreate something that somebody else is creating, or what's the word? I can't really think of the word right now, but it's you're kind of like regurgitating other people, I guess, instead of yourself. So I love the idea that we can take our life experiences and create something out of that. Like, for example, and this isn't about me going off about my business, because that's not at all what this is about, but I've spent, over 20 plus years working in international nations doing humanitarian work. This is what I did. Well, I kept thinking to myself, how can I incorporate this now into a business? Because it was like, I don't mean like, kind of in a way that exploits people, but I thought, I have all this ability, like, what can I do with this? I have all this experience, years of experience, what can I do with it? And that's part of what I'm doing. I'm bringing Advocate of Soul to a place where we help bring people, we help support humanitarian aid and support, but I also offer vision trips where we can take people to the site that they gave money towards, to be able to, see where their money went and really put the boots on the ground. So it's not trying to create something out of nothing. It's taking what you already have, is what it sounds like to me. You are making it very doable, very digestible, very assimilatable for people to be able to say, okay, I'm good at this. I can maybe use this. This is a gift. And it feels like to me on your page, and this is what inspired me, and I know we're going to be needing to go here soon, but what inspired me was I saw you do this one reel, and I don't remember at all what it was about. I just remember the energy. Okay. So, and the energy pulled me into this place where it was like, I can do this. You made it like, I can do this. It didn't mean that it was not going to be hard. It didn't mean there wasn't going to be difficulties or bumps along the road, because I'm having quite a few. It just means you can do this. And then you said something to the effect of, everything you need is on the inside of you. And I love you talking about that, what we were talking about earlier, because we don't want codependence. We don't want dependency on the outside of us. We really are the experts of our own lives. You, Shannon, are an expert of your life. I can look and say, well, maybe you might want to try this or maybe this, but never would I ever say that I have got you pegged, because you are you. You have your own gene pool, your DNA, your own codes, and they're all you. They're just you. And so when I, saw that reel, I was just like, I love this woman. I'm gonna connect with this woman. And so I want to say thank you, honestly, for what it is that you bring into the world. I mean, I think that there's so much to you. I think there's a lot down on the inside of you that will come out in writings and books. I can perceive books and different things that you're going to write, not only your own personal journey, but also about the consciousness of the planet and where you see it heading. I think those writings are going to be almost kind of like the Dead Sea Scrolls that people will refer back to time and again and time again and time again. Because there's a lot of truth in that. And I just want to say thank you for just sharing openly, being who you are. You are a truth teller. You are one who sees the gold in people, but you also can call the shit out and see it for what it is, and help all of us, help me, help the planet know that we don't have to keep sitting under that shit. We don't have to keep being buried under conditioning and family upbringing. And you help all of us progress forward because of your own journey and because of your humility. There's a humility to you, Shannon. Social media can be funny because you can't always, it can be like, where are people coming from? But from you, there's a humility, and I always sense it over your page. I always sense that you are a learner every day and you're a teacher every day, and you are doing both simultaneously. And it's just like a beautiful dance to watch it happen, because I never, ever perceive your business as one that's like, I've got all the answers. It's, I'm learning right along with you. And that's what I like. It's a journeying with you. You're not somebody that's like way down the track beyond that nobody can get to. And we can't at all figure out where you're, because you're so in the clouds. We don't even know where you are. No, you have the clouds, but you also have your feet on the ground, and there's a groundedness to you and a humility. And I just want to say thank you for your light. I want to say thank you for allowing it to shine. I want to say thank you for allowing the healing that comes from that. I want to say thank you for opening the voices of countless people world over who are learning how to activate their own goodness, activate their own gold, activate who they are in the inside because of what you bring. And you just are a force to be reckoned with, Shannin. You really are. And your kindness and your compassion, the way that you direct your fire always has compassion on it, and always has empathy on it, and always has a kindness to the collective. It's always an invitation. Your fire is, yeah, you'll burn up things, but the fire isn't to burn everything down per se. It's to invite people into the heat of it as well, to invite people into the warmth of the fire so that they too can be refined and transformed. We are transformed in the fire. And it is you who is bringing that fire, but you're bringing it in such a way that is so delicious and delightful. And I know I could go on because I just feel it's something for you to just hold in your heart. Know that what you're doing is really changing hearts like never before. And it's changing the very trajectories of people's lives to experience their goodness. And that is such a place of responsibility, yes, but it's also a place that can be fun and can be delightful and be a place of joy. And so thank you for just giving us a glimpse into your life, a glimpse into it, because I know that there is always so much more to your history. But thank you for doing the hard stuff. Thank you for sitting with the hard stuff. Thank you for continuing to sit with the hard stuff. Thank you that you will continue to do that for the remainder of your incarnation, sitting in the place where people can touch your feet and people can get a hug and people can be present in your space. Because what we don't need is we don't need your light to be unattainable. You make it accessible. And I want to say thank you for that. So.
You're going to make me cry, Ellen. Thank you. I really appreciate those kind words. It goes a long way. And I want to encourage everybody else to take what Ellen has said and to understand that this one phrase that I'm going to leave you with here is the key to everything that you've just said about my page. And that is, when you put out your content, ask yourself, how do I want my content to make other people feel? Instead of just having it be a dumping ground, be intentional with it. How do I want my content to make people feel? What is the vibration of my content? What is the lasting impression that if everything in this world is energy, what is the energy of my content? Where do I want this to go? How do I want this to ripple out into the world? And if you have that as your intention every time you create content, then people will feel your content in the way that you said. I don't think any of the marketing experts I've ever worked with when I was learning all of these things ever asked me that or ever told me that my energy was the most important thing in the reel. Remember, you just said there that you don't remember necessarily like every word I said or what it was about, but it was my energy that was magnetic in that reel. And that's really the main thing that I want to impart in other people. It's the enjoyment that comes from it. It's the purpose and the passion, the reason that you're doing what you're doing that makes you magnetic, that makes your people just can't wait to speak to you, can't wait to message you. They understand you, everything, like the whole thing about imposter syndrome and all of that. It dissolves when you come at it from that perspective.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Coming
It's really
from
awesome.
UK, massive hugs coming from the UK. If you could send us some sun, that would be wonderful.
Well, not today, evidently, but I'll try again tomorrow.
But no pressure, no pressure. But we know that you're working on that. So, but
I'll do something.
it's been a pleasure having you on here. And yeah.
Such a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for this opportunity and just, the opportunity for a normal human conversation with no ulterior motives or any of those things is always refreshing.
Yes, thank you. All right. Well, you take care, Shannin.
You too. Have a great weekend.
I will.
Bye.